Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, episode number 199 of Let's Go Racing. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Dominic Aragon and Matt Kemp in the building as well. We got plenty to discuss on today's show after Denny Hamlin's win in St. Louis. He's getting so close, folks, to that 60th win. And on top of that, too, he's making quite the championship run. We'll discuss it, break it all down coming up in just a bit. We'll also look ahead at this weekend's race at Bristol. That Bristol night race, always something, folks. Certainly looking forward to previewing that. We'll talk news and notes, the latest headlines in the sport. A lot going on with Alex Bowman, among others. Take a look at the odds, and we'll answer questions as well coming up at the end of today's show. Dominic joins me right now. Dominic, let's start with you right away. Denny Hamlin gets it done, and it's so funny that everything that's gone on off the track, it seems like when something doesn't go Denny's way, either him or Bubba Wallace, for that matter, gets into victory lane, and it happened again. Yours truly, by the way, picked Denny Hamlin last week, just for the record. And he got the victory there at Gateway. Another good showing for Denny Hamlin to get into victory circle here.
Yeah, 59th career win. We know win 60 is just it's on the heels. It's here. It's going to happen, and we'll have a lot more to unpack with Hamlin throughout the show. But nonetheless, a dominating weekend, unloading off the truck, winning the pole, leading the laps they did, running up front, collecting stage points. And that doesn't even matter for this round now. You're advancing to the round of 12. Him and Chase Briscoe, the only winners in the playoffs so far, and I believe Toyota has swept all stages and wins throughout the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. When you have somebody like Denny Hamlin, who's 44 years old, who's racing as good as ever, hard to root against that. Hard to even think that. Can we imagine a championship four without Denny Hamlin at this point? The championship might be going through the 11 this year. And I told you, Tyler, there's something different about that 11 team this year. And I picked him a couple years ago to win the title in 23. That didn't happen. But there's a different chip on the shoulder. The preparation you hear from Denny Hamlin and how he's doing everything and crossing all the things in the boxes. He's preparing like how Tom Brady was, beating guys half his age. Denny Hamlin is beating guys half of his age.
The impressive part for me, Matt, is the fact that we're talking about Denny Hamlin right now running as good as ever at 44 years of age. This is unheard of. We don't talk about guys racing their very best this late in their careers. And I get it. He's with the top team at Joe Gibbs Racing. He's got a fantastic crew chief, a lot of good going for him. But this is very unusual to see a guy that is as good as ever, that's got his best shot to win a championship, that's never done it before, right here and right now.
No, for sure. It's incredibly impressive. And, there's one other guy that tends to get compared to who has a very similar career, not a lot of championships or any championships. They say, a lot of wins, but no championships. I think Mark Martin kind of comes to mind for being late in his career, winning a lot, and obviously having a great opportunity with Hendrick late in his career. Basically in top tier equipment, winning, being at the top of his game late. And I think Hamlin's kind of right in that same spot.
And that 60th win, I was listening to Dale Jr. talk about it this week, Dom, that this might be the last driver we potentially see ever in the NASCAR Cup Series reach that 60 win milestone because there's so much parity now, and it's so tough to rattle off these 8+ win seasons anymore, just the way that things have changed in the sport. I know there's a lot of Denny Hamlin haters out there, but you mentioned the Tom Brady comparison. Dom, I think you have to sit back and have to appreciate greatness of what we're witnessing from Denny Hamlin. This is very rare what we're talking about, of not only winning this late in his career at this stage, but continuing to add to that resume, getting closer to that first title. Believe me, I understand if you're not a big Denny Hamlin fan, but I think you still have to recognize what he's doing here, that we might never see this again.
Sure thing. And for all three of us here, I think when you look at Denny Hamlin too, maybe there's a little bit of nostalgia with it too, because this is one of the last athletes in any of major forms of professional sports that was playing while all three of us were still kids and is still playing and doing it at a top, such competitive level where we're at in our stage of life. And of course, Father Time's undefeated. Father Time's going to win every single time. But right now, Denny Hamlin is just racing as good as ever. This is the most wins he's had in a Cup Series season since 2020. He went on to win 7 races that year. And 7 wins is not out of question for this year. The way that 11 team is running, but the era, the parity, everything that we look at now, you're right, Tyler. We may not see a winner like this if the parity continues the next 10, 15, 20 years with what we're seeing now. We're not going to see drivers racing into the late 40s. Jeff Gordon and Carl Edwards kind of kicked that off, where you see drivers tend to mirror football players, late 30s, early 40s, for some quarterbacks and some kickers to make that comparison. But we don't see drivers racing into their 50s, not competitively, at least. And Denny Hamlin is bucking that trend. I say we got to enjoy the ride. I think we're winning something very special. Even if he doesn't come away with that title this year, there's something to be said about what Denny Hamlin's remarkable run has been this late in his career.
Now, let's talk about those title chances for a moment here. We'll start with you, Matt. He's obviously running very well, and he's winning playoff races. But we have seen this before. We have seen Denny run good in the playoffs and win playoff races and still come up short. Matt, are you seeing something different in this title pursuit from Denny Hamlin than maybe what we've seen in years past? Is this going to be the one he breaks through?
I'm just saying there's a reason I picked him for my playoff grid to go all the way this year. So I hope he does it so that I look smart finally. But no, I honestly, I think this is good a chance as ever for him. I mean, he's got more wins on the season this year than any past next gen champion. I think the most previously in the next gen era is 4 for a champion that's, in terms of race wins on the season. So why not him, right? I mean, that's everybody kind of says that, I feel like, throughout the playoffs, but really I do feel like that 11 team, Denny's got a lot of pressure and a lot of distractions. And honestly, I think with all those distractions, it's going to keep him pretty occupied and honestly more focused and ready to rock on Sundays.
And the other thing,
Dominic,
too, here, Matt, I want to ask you, because you'd have that driver's perspective on it. And of course, a lot of drivers aren't going to give away all of their trade secrets as to how they prep, how they work out, what they're doing on a day-to-day or week to week. But give us that peek behind the curtain. What would a week into the shoes of Denny Hamlin be as far as prepping and the working out and the research and the dieting? What does that look like, especially for a driver his age, double the age of everybody that he's just whooping their ass?
Honestly, I haven't been there at that age, so I can't necessarily speak to it, but for not yet anyway, but at least from the outside looking in, it seems like a really tough spot to be in. Seems like, in my opinion, it seems like you'd just have to work harder than everyone around you to be able to maintain that. Maybe that's not the truth, but in terms of a mindset, I think everyone's kind of different in terms of a mindset, but I think just from past experience, especially from Denny's early seasons where he's kind of 2010 for an example, when he kind of fell apart at the end of that season. I think if he has too much time to think about things, maybe that kind of hurts him a little more. But if he's kind of under the gun and under pressure, I think it's better for him. Like I said, I think it's different for everybody, but I think this kind of suits him.
let's take a look at the rest of the leaderboard from over the weekend. Chase Briscoe second, Chase Elliott third, Ryan Blaney fourth, Joe Logano fifth, John Hunter Nemechek sixth, Christopher Bell seventh, Bubba eighth, Chris Buescher ninth, and Ty Gibbs top 10. Dom, anything stand out to you? Another good run for Chase Briscoe. John Hunter Nemechek, another good run. Bubba's off to a good playoff. What's kind of your thoughts on what we saw on Sunday?
It would be those non-playoff guys. John Hunter Nemechek kind of rising to the top when it counts. We saw Legacy Motor Club and him and Eric Jones run extremely well at Darlington. Again, we made that meme that we had seen on social media, these mid-tier drivers that tend to run well at Darlington. But John Hunter Nemechek's backing this up. We know he's a really good race car driver. He's very talented. It's also no secret that Legacy Motor Club is not TRD's darling, if you will, like a Joe Gibbs Racing or a 2311 Racing. But with what they're building there, dividends are starting to pay off with these top 10 finishes and Jimmy Johnson running the team and bringing his visionary in. I think we're starting to see a little bit of that click a little bit more, Tyler. And again, while he's not in the playoffs, Jean-Henri Machek continues to impress. He has outpointed many of the drivers who are in the playoffs in these first two races.
Yeah, yeah, he has. It's a great point. Let's break down the updated playoff grid where things stand right now. And we have Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe advancing with wins. Denny with 34 playoff points, Chase Briscoe with 18, Kyle Larson with 60 above the cutoff, and Bubba Wallace 50 above the cutoff, 32 playoff points for Larson. Bubba with 9 playoff points. Matt, looking at those four, of course, we know Hamlin and Briscoe have advanced, but Kyle Larson and Bubba Wallace looking very good throughout these first two races. They appear to be in good shape as well.
Yeah, if I'm Bubba Wallace, I'm feeling very, very good, especially with the speed that Toyota's had thus far. Honestly, if I'm any Toyota driver, I feel pretty darn good. But yeah, no, Larson's in a pretty good spot. If he didn't have that buffer, I don't know if I'd feel good if I was the 5 team, to be honest with you. It seems like they are just, it actually blows my mind looking at this that he's 60 above. Just tells you that he's got a pretty good cushion built up that's hopefully going to help him carry probably at least to the round of 8, I'd imagine, as long as he doesn't screw up anything too bad in the round of 12. But I'd feel pretty safe if I was both of them, at least getting through this round.
Then the next four drivers, Dom, you got Ryan Blaney, 42 above, William Byron, 39 above, Reddick, 37 above, and Bell, 32 above. Blaney with 26 playoff points, Byron with 32 playoff points, or Byron, yeah, 32 playoff points. Reddick with 6 playoff points, and Bell with 23 playoff points. With those four, it's basically like, hey, just finish the race on the lead lap. Maybe do well in a stage or two, and you're in pretty good shape.
If you pick up stage points in either of the first two stages, you're going to be doing really well. And we know that these last few Bristol races have been races of attrition, and we don't see a lot of cautions. It's going to take a lot of keeping your car and your nose clean and keeping the tires from falling off too much to do that. And a good qualifying run on Friday, rather, is going to be the key to that success. But if you're any of those guys, Tyler, Blaney, Byron, Reddick, Bell, even if you finish a mundane 20th with no stage points, you're likely advancing to the round of 12.
And then the next four guys, Matt, you got Chase Elliott, 28 above, 13 playoff points. Joey Logano, 21 above, 7 playoff points. Ross Chastain, 19 above with 7 playoff points. And Austin Cindric, 11 above with 8 playoff points. And we'll go over the next four in just a moment. But I would say this, Matt, if you're those four, I think you're actually feeling pretty good because of comparing yourself with the other four drivers. I think there's a significant talent gap between those four that are in right now and the four that are out.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily how good you feel. I think you can't feel too bad being above the cut line going into a cut race, but anything can happen. I mean, Joey Logano, he didn't have a stellar day, but he had a solid points day, and he went from, I think it was -3 to +21 by the end of the day. So that just tells you, I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot, and you can lose or gain that much ground in one race. So maybe a little bit feeling good about being above the cut line, but they can't let their guard down for sure.
And then Dominic, the four guys that are on the outside: Austin Dillon, Shane Van Gisbergen, Alex Bowman, and Josh Berry. Dillon's 11 back with 5 playoff points. SVG's 15 back with 22 playoff points. Bowman 35 back with 2 playoff points, and Josh Berry 45 back with 6 playoff points. Even the guys like Dillon and SVG at 11 and 15, I feel like it's going to take something special for any of these four. Realistically, I think it's got to be getting to victory lane. Obviously, if you're one of the bottom two, if you're Bowman or if you're Josh Berry, who have each struggled in these playoffs here. But that's what I'm feeling. It's pretty much going to have to be a win for those four to advance.
Essentially, that's going to what it'll be to take to get to the round of 12. We've never seen Austin Dillon win more than one race in a season. We've seen him run well at Bristol, but statistics and historical, it wouldn't make sense. You look at Shane Van Gisbergen, improving so much on the ovals, but might be a little bit too late. I remember him saying somewhere that Bristol had been a struggle for him. He'd never been to a track like that, if I remember correctly. So you look at SVG. going to take some stage points. It's going to take something or something catastrophic of somebody ahead of you to make that round of 12. But then you look at Alex Bowman, who's run well at Bristol. He led laps in this race in the spring before they had their issues. And then Josh Berry, being the short track ace that he is, he's only scored 3 points in the playoffs across the first two races, but all that goes away with the victory on Saturday night. And we've seen the Fords run well at Bristol in the past. Josh Berry, stellar at Bristol himself. So if there's a guy that could do it, very interested if you guys would agree or disagree, but Josh Berry probably has the most likely chance of any of those four bottom, at least in my opinion, to go out and try and make that victory and get themselves above the cut line.
I see what you mean. I don't think it's a bad take, but I would go with Alex Bowman having the best chance of those four because he's in the Hendrick equipment and that he's going to have all the resources, much more, I think, to work with than necessarily that 21 team to potentially make that push. What do you think, Matt? Who's got the best chance of those four to win and advance?
Honestly, Tyler, I agree with you on Alex Bowman, but Dom, I don't necessarily. I have a hard time disagreeing with you on Josh Berry. I think both are very solid picks, and obviously both in great equipment to be able to get something done. Josh Berry, I know he's only scored 3 points throughout the first couple races of the playoffs, but he was starting up front at Darlington and had a great shot at it, and obviously more problems at Gateway. But I think, like you said, the short track ace and short track experience is going to come into play, and certainly not something to be overlooked. And then Bowman's crew, they just got to figure something out. They just got to figure something out. I mean, we'll see if they can do that, they'll be all right.
All right, let's talk Bristol now. And before we dive into too much details of previewing the race, I might make some enemies with what I'm about to say next. But hey, I'm okay with being the bad guy. Dominic knows this. Uh,
Let's see you piss off this week, Tyler. Go for it.
First and foremost, I know that this Bristol night race means a lot to a lot of people. There's a lot of tradition and a lot of history. But has anyone seen the TV ratings of Saturday night races this year and recently? They've been terrible. They have been god awful. And it's on cable TV, which doesn't help things. NBC is a little busy. They got Notre Dame football on Saturday night. They got Sunday night football on Sunday. So there's not much that NBC can do to help matters out with this. But, you look at like from a fan perspective, the races are usually attended better for the Saturday night races, but the Sunday afternoon races get much better in TV ratings than the Saturday night races do. And at the end of the day, what matters most is the TV ratings. It's not the asses in the seats. I hate to be the bearer of bad news to folks, but that is way more important how many people are watching as opposed to how many people are in the stands. It's going to be a beautiful display. People are going to be in awe about the idea of a Saturday night race at Bristol and all of that. But the truth of the matter is, we have no business running Saturday night races right now. And Dominic, like, the short track races have been bad in the next gen car. There's not going to be anybody watching. I just have very low expectations for how this is going to go. And like, I get it. This is a tough spot. There's really no solution unless you move Bristol out of the playoff or something here and go to all Sunday races for the playoffs. But it's not setting up well. You're not going into the weekend with the highest of hopes for what should be a big race. It's a crown jewel event, an elimination race, and NASCAR setting itself up for failure going into the weekend before we even get the cars on track.
Yeah, the ratings, that's another discussion too. The ratings were bad last week with Gateway and the big drop off with the year before. And I believe where the race slot was too. It has a little bit of impact on that as well. But yeah, Tyler, the Bristol race, the next gen vehicle, we've all been critical of that on this show, you and I, the last couple of years. NASCAR's hit some really good things, but the short tracks and the next gen vehicles just don't seem to mesh right now. So what that solution is something that is well beyond us and well beyond our pay grade. But you're right. There's the stage set for some really cool storylines, some really cool follows along to the track on Saturday night. But I guess we just got to watch and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, and Matt, from your perspective here, what can be done to fix this of the next gen car? I've already discussed the TV side of things. I've already had the solution laid out. Put it on network TV and don't put this race in the playoffs. put it on a Sunday night on NBC. But when it comes to the race itself, this next gen car, it just doesn't do well on these short tracks. I can pretty much guarantee you right now, we are setting up for a very boring race on Saturday night. You can probably sleep through the entire second stage and wake up for the third stage and just see what happens at the finish there. But here we are. We're 4 years into this next gen car, and this has not gotten any better at these short tracks. Like I hate to say it, I'm not really that excited when I should be excited going into Saturday.
No, for sure. And I honestly, I think you're spot on that. This, one of the worst things, if not the worst thing to come out of this next gen era is the way the short tracks have raced. And quite frankly, Bristol being as prestigious of a racetrack, as prestigious as the Bristol night races, we should all be sitting here getting geeked about it. Like this is like one of the top events of the year, or should be. But just because of the way this next gen car has raced on the short tracks, and especially at Bristol, like we're almost dreading it. I'm right. I mean, honestly, personally, I think I don't know what we need to do to fix it. I don't know what needs to be done. I've just been surprised that more alarms have not been going off on NASCAR's front to do something, try anything at this race, because I don't know, other than some hope that the tires might come apart and make for an insane race, just out of pure chaos. I think for the most part, everybody's not got a lot of high hopes. And I had a buddy who's not necessarily been a lifelong race fan, but went to Bristol for the first time a couple years ago. First race that he's ever been to at Bristol, and I cannot put a number on how excited how he was to be out there and to be headed down there. But needless to say, I don't know if he'll ever go back to Bristol after that race. So it's disappointing, but hopefully they do something here soon to make it better.
Matt, we hear drivers all the time talk about give us more horsepower, and I understand where they're coming from, but I'll be honest, I don't think that's necessarily the fix for all the woes on the short tracks here. Like more horsepower sounds great, but I still think you're going to have other issues.
Yeah, this car has kind of got a lot going against it on the short tracks, between the all the downforce with the rear diffuser, the width of the tire. I mean, there's just so many things kind of working against the way short track racing has always been, and what we look forward to on short tracks. So it's honestly, I don't know. I mean, they got to at least try something though, right? I mean, have we even tried anything? It feels like we have done nothing to the car over the last few years. So try something at least. I mean, I know we've done some stuff with tires, but give something a shot with the cars. If it's horsepower, if it's taking downforce away, whatever, do something. Give us some hope.
Now, Dominic, let me ask you this. So at the beginning of the year, we mentioned the ratings thing. The ratings were strong to start the season on television. And then we've seen really since the summer months, ratings have kind of fallen off. And then this past, couple of weeks were the first weekends where they were competing with football, with the NFL and college football, and ratings dipped off even further. And then you had a short track race last week in St. Louis, where ratings were not great. And we keep hearing fans left and right complain, not just about the short tracks, but they're sick of this playoff format and want to see the championship decided with a full season champion, an old school Winston Cup style. I wonder when we see these numbers and how bad these short track races are, have some of these fans kind of spoken up and said enough is enough? Like, I'm not coming back till you get your shit together and figure this out when it comes to the short tracks and the championship till you offer us something better. Are fans, is it coincidence, you think, or do you think fans are saying enough is enough?
There's a lot of variables. I think what you're saying, there's some truth to all of that. I think some fans are turned off by the point system. It's been 20 years, 21 years since we had, or 22 full years rather, for that we've had a full season format. 2003 was the last time we had that. And that was about the time NASCAR was still at its peak, probably started tapering off in the mid 2000s and into the recession. And of course, that's a whole other topic and discussion there too. But at the same time, I think it's a combination of things. A lot of fans, they don't want to travel necessarily to a lot of these races. And I've heard this argument before. Maybe you two have heard this from people in your circles, that the broadcasts do such a great job of showing everything on TV, all the camera battles, generally speaking, to the telemetries, to everything that you have on your devices that you can follow these races, you can watch from the comfort of your own home. We know and we acknowledge that NASCAR is a made-for-TV event. Clearly, we talked about that even in this very episode. But the fact that the broadcast partners, for the most part, do a really good job in producing a live telecast. There's no need to go to these events necessarily. You don't have to fight traffic. You don't have to go spend your money and your time to go to events necessarily. Of course, you're going to have your diehards that go. Met people that go to Pocono. They've been going 25 years, 30 years. We all know NASCAR fans that are very loyal to the places they're going to go patronize and the races they're going to go see and visit. But I think from a perspective of getting new fans, the broadcast, I think, is probably a part of that variable. I don't know if you'd agree or disagree with that, Tyler, but I think there's something there with that as well.
Definitely. It feels like the broadcasts are getting lazy. Amazon was so good, but none of the other networks have come close to the standard that Amazon established on Prime Video and risen to the occasion. And what's bizarre is too, NBC and USA are using some of the same production that Prime Video was, and it's not even close to as good. And I think that fans are getting tired of all those components that you mentioned there when it comes to the struggles with what we're seeing of people kind of turning off the product of sorts at this time of year. With that said, going to Bristol, Matt, your most recent winners, Kyle Larson's won the last two races, one back in the spring, and he won this race last year. Before that, you had back-to-back wins from Denny Hamlin, and then Chris Buescher with a win back in 2022, and Kyle Larson with a win back in 2021. Denny and Kyle, it feels like every time we go to short track, it starts with those, and then kind of everybody else after that.
Yeah, we'll see if the same thing happens this time around. Again, just kind of, it's hard to have faith in the 5 team after these last couple of months, but I wouldn't doubt if they came through and actually made it work this upcoming weekend. I don't know. I will see what happens with these Toyotas, man, but I'm kind of blown away with how they've started the playoffs. I think they might be onto something and they might be hard to beat. So even Chase Briscoe, with the way he's been running, I think this will be another good track for him that he'll be tough to beat at as well. But yeah, if it's going to be a Hendrick guy, hopefully Bowman can pull it out for my sake of my playoff grid.
Dom, what do you think about this weekend's race at Bristol? Give me something positive about Bristol on Saturday night. What's your expectations?
Well, I was talking with Carl Long, friend of the show, earlier this week, and we were talking about like what it's like to be at Bristol and they're in Thunder Valley and on the state line of Virginia and Tennessee. And one of the coolest experiences, and I've shared on the show before, but I love sharing it every time. You walk through that infield tunnel that goes underneath the track, and you step up and you exit in the infield of Bristol, and you just look around. I'm getting chills talking about it. You just look around, and then you're just surrounded in this concrete palace, all these grandstands, and you have a chance to go see the banking from the infield of the track, and like TV doesn't do it justice if you've never been there. It looks multi-story from where you go from the apron to the transition to the first line all the way to the outside retaining wall. It's so cool, and to shoot photos there, guys, is a lot of fun. So a lot of cool memories going to Bristol. I've only been once. Definitely want to go back. And that was 2018 when we had all those rain delays and they had to come back the next day. And it was the battle between Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson. But Bristol's going to put on a great show. Even in this next gen era, I would say of all the short tracks we go to, guys, still Bristol puts on a great race of the product and the circumstances that we have. And I think 2023 was relevant with that, with Hamlin and Truex and the tire battles. Again, circumstances kind of play into that too. But of all the short tracks we have, I think the next gen race is best at Bristol.
Now, I hope that Bristol learned from their baseball game last month and has enough hot dogs and nachos this time. Let's take care of the fans, make sure they're okay, that they got enough food to get by for Saturday night.
And no rain. And no rain.
No rain. No rain either.
You're asking a lot from when NASCAR's in town here, Dom. I don't know.
Yeah, it was the joke that if you ever want rain in your area, just bring a NASCAR race.
That's for sure.
Yes.
True words have never been spoken on this show. Let's move on, get to our news and notes. Plenty of headlines to discuss. Dom, where do we want to start?
From the NASCAR odds at Bristol to Alex Bowman. We're going to start with Denny Hamlin, though. One of the things we have not touched on this show, and if any fans had listened along or read the articles over the last few days, perhaps it was a thought that a lot of people had, and perhaps maybe in circles has been discussed, but for the first time publicly, Denny Hamlin put a final chapter on his full-time driving days. Denny Hamlin acknowledged in his post-race winners press conference on Sunday at Worldwide Technology Raceway that his next extension that starts in 2026 and runs through the conclusion of the 2027 season will likely be his last full-time extension. And on his podcast this week, Actions Detrimental mentioned that he has about 70 some to 80 some races left in the tank. So we knew there would be a final race. We knew there'd be a final season at some point. But Tyler, Matt, we actually know that 2027 will likely be Denny's final foray into the NASCAR Cup Series. He had even said in that press conference, he realizes he has two more chances to win the Daytona 500 again. Two more chances to win that elusive Brickyard 400 as well.
And he also said that he has no interest in part-time racing whatsoever, that once he hangs it up, he is done for sure. And I look at this, Matt, a couple thoughts that go into mind here. You know, if Denny is still running at this level, what he is now, I think that's going to be hard for him to step away. Maybe it's like what Mark Martin, we mentioned the comparisons to Mark Martin. If he's still winning races, maybe it's like, okay, give me one more year or give me another year. And I understand there's a sponsor element and, obviously you're recruiting other drivers to potentially take that ride and that plays a role and all of it too. But that to me, like, a lot could change. He could start to go on the downturn in the next 2 years. But I have every reason to think, based on the way Denny's running right now, that he's going to continue on this path. And unless we see Father Time catch up with him, I find it hard to believe that a competitive Denny Hamlin is going to step out of that race car, especially if he hasn't won that championship just yet. That's what I'm looking at over these next 2 years. He may say 2027 now, but if he's still competing for wins and if he doesn't have that championship yet, I could see him potentially pushing this back a bit. What say you, Matt?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like the opposite. I think he's been kind of cryptic this year towards the end of the year, almost making it sound like yeah, I just hope we get to 60 wins this year, Hope we make it to the end of the year. I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks if he gets it done this year, he could just hang it up. I remember a couple of years ago being a big Jimmy Johnson fan, listening to Denny's podcast. I actually don't know if it was that long ago now that he talked about Jimmy's legacy and talked about how he felt like Jimmy was kind of hurting his legacy, for a lack of a better term, by sticking around when he's not competitive. And I don't think Denny is going to do that. And it's hard to say, but I think Denny's going to want to go out at the top of his game, and he's there now, and he kind of sees the end of the tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel. So who knows if maybe he just calls it a day one of these days.
If you look at it too, Tyler, it looks like a Rusty Wallace, Kevin Harvick type deal where these guys could have still ran another season or two. I remember Rusty Wallace saying on Dale Jeter's show years ago, that cool down lap at Homestead in 2005, he said, I made the wrong decision. Called Richard Childress. They couldn't put him in the 07 because they already signed Clint Boyer. But you look at Hamlin, he's going to pull a Harvick, he's going to pull a Wallace. He will leave. I agree with you, Matt. He will leave when he is still competitive. But can he win in his final season? That's another conversation. That is so tough to do.
Well, and then we talk about guys going out while they're still competitive, still competing for championships. Very rare nowadays. Jeff Gordon was in the championship for his final season. He only had one win that year, though. That was at Martinsville, which got him into the Final Four. Martin Truex was very competitive his final season, but it's typically we don't talk about. I think, we bring this to a sports, comparison, outside of NASCAR. Everybody talks about the John Elway thing of John Elway going out on top, or Peyton Manning when he went out on top. But whether it's NASCAR or even other sports, it's just very rare that these things eventually do catch up to you at some point in time. And in Denny's case, I'm looking at a guy that if he's still winning, it's going to be tough because, as we mentioned at the top of the show, Dom, this is a guy that's running as good as ever right now. That's what I find so tough to believe, that especially if he doesn't have that championship, like in the back of your mind, you got to be thinking, okay, if I didn't get it done this year, why not go ahead and do another year and just keep on going until you can't give out anymore. But the other element I would say, Dom, I know we don't know the future of 2311 racing at this point. There's a lot beyond our pay grade to figure that out. If you're Denny Hamlin, I think another reason why you might, to counter my own argument here of stepping aside early, is he, assuming that 2311 is still going to be around, and that's a big if, he's got a whole big future and some big plans with 2311, and he seems just as passionate about 2311 as he is running his own race car.
Yeah, he did say in that press conference too that he needs something to fill that void when he's done, and that end is coming up sooner rather than later. We know there's more races way behind him than he does have ahead, but he will fill that void with something. That prep that he does as a race car driver right now, you know that prep's going to go in as a team owner if 2311 Racing is still around in 3-4 years, and that team is just getting started. The investments they've made, of course, the impending lawsuit and how all that hangs in the balance, of course, will dictate a lot over the next few months. But if Denny has it his way, he's managing 2311 Racing, and he fills that void with that. And the other name I think of too, Matt, Ned Jarrett. Ned Jarrett was another driver that stepped away maybe in his prime. I think we can say Denny Hamlin is in his prime at 44 years old. Absolutely. Time and time again, proving how good he is. Ned Jarrett stepped away, won the championship, ran a partial schedule the next year, just quit mid-year. And also there were other factors at that time too. But Denny Hamlin is in some rare air here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And to be honest with you, exactly that to that point, Tyler, of everything going on with 2311. If the scenario does play out where they end up losing their charters and have to shut down the team, if I'm Denny Hamlin, it might leave a sour taste in my mouth and it might be kind of hard to be running full time in that series over the next couple of years, even though your contract extends there. So I don't know, going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. I think that might be one of the biggest factors as well.
Well, I would add this to your point, Matt. I would think that with the future 2311 in question and Denny's retirement, coming in 2027, whatever it may be, if I'm NASCAR, I'm keeping tabs on Denny because I think no matter what, whether he stays the team owner or if he does get kicked to the curb somehow, and all this, I think he's going to be a thorn in NASCAR's side for many years to come. Whether it's, like if they resolve this, that doesn't mean that other issues aren't going to come up. Or if 2311 gets kicked to the curb, there's been rumors that maybe Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin will just start their own racing series to compete with NASCAR and do that. Like, just because Denny, maybe with the future 2311 being in question or his retirement coming up, I don't think that when it comes to NASCAR or stock car racing, that Denny Hamlin is going anywhere anytime soon, and he is going to be a threat of sorts to NASCAR, I think, Matt, for many years to come.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a good point too. But if not NASCAR, where else? And I think that might end up being the question. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here come December, and I think we'll know a lot more answers by then.
Yeah, we certainly will. What else we got, Dom?
On to the Alex Bowman news. After two of less than ideal races to open up the NASCAR playoffs, Hendrick Motorsports is making changes ahead of this weekend's race at Bristol for the 48 team with Spire Motorsports in the 77. Racer.com was the first to report that you have two tire changers, a carrier, and a jackman that are going to be different on the 48 team for the elimination race at Bristol. As we talked about earlier in the show, Alex Bowman is below the cut line. They've had some less than ideal pit stops and decisions on pit road and factors that have contributed to some really bad finishes. So you have, and again, Racer.com is the one reporting this. Daniel Bach is the front changer. Rod Cox, Jarius Moorhead, and Cody French are going to be on the roster changes there. And they come to the team from Spire in the 77. We've seen Carson Hocevar's team do really well throughout the year. Really good pit stops at Michigan to keep them in the mix for the win up there in June. Some silly season, I guess, if you will, for the playoffs. It doesn't indicate here, Tyler, if this is just a 1 week thing or if this is going to be for the rest of the season. But nonetheless, if you're on a Hendrick pit crew, you're probably feeling slighted. If you're on a Spire crew, you're probably feeling really elated and have some newfound momentum.
Yeah, and Matt, I would say that I don't blame Hendrick at all for making this because Alex Bowman's the one on the outside looking in. It's been two rough races and their season's on the line here. You got to try for it to save the year for that 48 team here.
Yeah, Tyler, to your point, I mean, you got to do something, right? Like exactly kind of the point I was talking about with Bristol earlier and trying something, you're kind of you're in your last chance here to make something happen. And uh, obviously the first two races, how they've gone have been inexcusable for that level of organization. To be in the position that they're in right now when all of their teammates, for the most part, are 28 plus points above the cut line, is honestly inexcusable. So something had to change. Obviously, a little awkward on their front. Could be worse. Could have been Jimmy Johnson, Chad Canals in what was it, 2010, when they fired the pit crew mid race and brought in Jeff Gordon's pit crew. So could be a worse scenario, but yeah, got to try something.
Yeah. And now the question becomes, Dom, will it be enough? Is this what they were looking for?
And is it too little, too late? Depending on how the crew goes, are they able to pick up stage points? Can Alex Bowman notch off the win at Bristol Motor Speedway? It's going to be tough. It's a tall order. And then you throw in the mix these pit crew changes. Again, you're trying to throw anything you can. And on one hand, you commend them, but on the other hand, it has to be a distraction internally.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point. All right, what do the odds look like, Dom?
Oh boy, 39 drivers. You have three part-time teams that are entered. Before we get to that, we have Austin Hill in the 33, Chad Fincham in the 66, and Corey Heim in the 67. But as far as your odds-on favorites, can't look further than last year's winner, Kyle Larson, at plus 275 to get it done in the Bass Pro Shops night race, according to Caesar Sportsbook. Denny Hamlin, last week's winner, at plus 425. Ryan Blaney at plus 650, Christopher Bell at plus 800, and Chase Briscoe at plus 900 to round out your top five favorites. Then you have Chase Elliott at plus 1200, William Byron at plus 1400, Joey Logano at plus 1600, Ty Gibbs, first non-playoff guy, plus 2000, the ninth best odds or shortest odds, and Alex Bowman at plus 2000 as well. As you go on through the list, Kyle Busch, former Bristol winner at plus 3500, Chris Buescher, also a former winner at Bristol at plus 4000, Austin Cindric on the bubble of sorts at plus 6,500. And your longest shot there at Chad Fincham at plus 250,000 or 2,500 to 1.
All right, let's make some picks for this weekend. Matt, we'll start with you. Who's going to be in victory lane?
Well, it depends if you ask my brain or my heart. I've been rooting for Kyle Busch to finally pull it through, and so I want to pick Kyle Busch with my heart, but I don't know. Bubba Wallace has got some good momentum going on lately. This is a good track for him, and I don't know. I kind of between him and Denny Hamlin, my brain is, but I'll go with Bubba Wallace.
All right. Toyotas have been strong. There's a certain guy that's been dominant at these short tracks this year. I gotta go Denny Hamlin again. Give me Denny for the second week in a row to get it done there at Bristol. Dom, what's your pick?
You either hop on the bandwagon or get run over. I'm hopping on this week, Tyler. Denny Hamlin's going to get done at Bristol.
There you go. That's our race picks for this week. Time for our mailbag segment. We ask you guys to submit questions to us each and every week. And we begin our first question. It comes from Larry, and looks like it's for all of us. Guys, do you miss the Bristol dirt race? And should a dirt race return to the NASCAR Cup Series schedule? Let's start with you, Matt. What do you think?
Yes and yes, absolutely. We're going to have the most diverse schedule at the top level of motorsports. We need all the different types of tracks. So I'm all for another dirt race. Bristol may not have been the perfect place for the dirt race, but I don't know. I loved it. It was kind of a novelty, and I was one of the I don't know. Maybe I was in the minority of enjoyers of the Bristol dirt race, but damn, I love that race every spring. So I wish we could bring that back or bring something back, even if it's at Eldora or just some dirt track across the country. I don't know. I think it'd be cool. Say you guys.
Dom, the way I look at it, I think it was a good idea in theory. It just wasn't executed well at Bristol to do the dirt race. I think you need to do this at a real dirt track if you're going to do a dirt race, not a manufactured fake dirt track like Bristol. Bristol needs two cup dates at this point. I would take that spring race and give it to a real dirt track. If we could go to Knoxville or Eldora or one of those facilities that knows how to do this, I think that'd make much more sense. But I'd love to see a dirt race in the schedule, but I wouldn't like to see it at Bristol personally. What say you?
Yeah, I think there's a good happy medium there. Something that's been there, something that is actually sticking to the ground as a dirt track. And you look to historically, the NASCAR Cup Series did run a lot of dirt tracks throughout the Southeast in its early days. And before the Bristol dirt track race in 21, the last time you had a dirt track, I believe, was 1970 or 1971. It'd been a long, long time before we had seen dirt on the Cup Series schedule. I wouldn't mind seeing it return, Tyler. It's just a matter of, like you said, executing it right. It's a part of the Cup Series history. And like Matt said, you want diversity on the schedule. We have a good amount of diversity right now. Let's add a little bit more in with that dirt track.
Yeah, I think a dirt track would make sense. And Matt, kind of to the point you've talked about with having the diverse schedule here, you know, I think the goal is you're trying to present as many challenges as you possibly can to these drivers. We're running these drafting tracks. We got the mile and a halfs. We got the short tracks. We got the road courses, street courses, a dirt track in there as well. Like you want to challenge these drivers. And for years, the talk of NASCAR was this schedule is not diverse enough, that they're not trying new tracks. It's the same stale thing over and over again. I would like to see. I'm not even saying we have to have multiple dirt races, but just give me one. Give me something to change it up a bit. And you know, the other thing too, that the argument against it was, well, just watch. Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell are going to dominate. That didn't happen at the Bristol Dirt Race. There was guys you would have never guessed, like Martin Truex and Joey Logano, that were winning that race.
Yeah, and Kyle Busch that last time yeah,
Yeah.
he kind of stuck through and stole the show there. But no, I definitely think you add it to the season, it definitely adds a whole new factor of just I don't know, that ultimately that cup at the end of the year you had to go through every type of track and every kind of challenge to get there. And yeah, I think it adds a lot.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. That's a great point. All right. Next question in the mailbag this week comes from Clarence, and Clarence wants to know in his question this week. He is writing, guys, when you look at where the NASCAR Cup Series is at right now, if you could change one thing, what would it be and why? Let's start with you, Dom.
Yeah, I've said it on the show before. I'll say it till for however long we need to say it. We need more midweek races. The pandemic showed us, again, the pandemic was very bad on a lot of things, but some of the bright spots for the sport were showing that we can do midweek races. We can do a Wednesday night race, a Tuesday night race, a Thursday night race. I like that idea. Double headers. We had Pocono, we had Dover, and it was so popular we brought Pocono back for a double header in 2021. Let's do it. Let's bring those elements back. And then I think, Tyler, that would probably appease your argument with the schedule. I know you're really big on not having NASCAR compete against the NFL. That's a whole other topic of argument, but that might actually kind of help with that, ending the season a little bit earlier too, and giving a longer off season or more breaks throughout this long, grueling season. I think there could be a lot of benefits to making those two things: midweek races and doubleheaders.
Yeah, the ratings were not great with the midweek races when they did that, and that's going to be an issue. But I do like midweek races. I think especially Xfinity and Truck need to run midweek races, and there's some opportunities, especially in the summer months, where you can get primetime TV coverage you wouldn't get otherwise. Xfinity, on the CW could be primetime on a Wednesday or Thursday night. Truck Series, maybe you throw them on the big Fox network with those opportunities there. I think that makes a ton of sense. And trying to get the schedule done before, I think, Labor Day weekend is when we should be ending this. So we're not competing with the NFL and college football. I think that makes a ton of sense. I'll say what my change would be in a moment, but I want to hear from Matt first. Matt, what would be the change you would make?
Honestly, I'm gonna hop on this bandwagon, Dom. I kind of like the idea of doing the midweek races, and even if we don't do midweek races, I love the double header thing. We really got to jump on that bandwagon. Even if we run it at two different tracks on the same weekend, Martinsville and Bristol in the same weekend, that'd be a pretty sweet ticket. So, I don't know. I think the double header thing needs to come back. My personal opinion.
Oh yeah, if you could have to Matt's point, Dom, you have enough tracks that are close enough to each other that fans could go to two races in the same weekend that you could do like Martinsville and Bristol, or you could do something like North Wilkesboro and Charlotte within the same weekend, and fans could go to both.
That'd be cool, especially a different take of two different styles of racetracks. You have the short track on one end of that was Bristol and Martinsville, but then a North Wilkesboro and a Charlotte, or if you were to do like what else would be in driving distance? Maybe another
Rockingham probably isn't too far.
like Rockingham. You could do like a Darlington, Charlotte. Maybe the logistics might be a little crazy with
You
that,
could do
but
Talladega and Atlanta.
yeah, those are 2 hours apart along Interstate 80. No, not 80, Interstate 20, Interstate 20. So that could be a possibility. Yeah, I like it. These are all really good ideas. I hope whoever's listening in NASCAR to this podcast, please consider these ideas.
All right. My idea, it's something we talked about earlier. I just want the next gen car fixed in short tracks. I know that's easier said than done, and I don't have the solution other than maybe more horsepower of what to do to fix it. But I feel like that would solve a lot of the problems in the sport right now. If we could just get this next gen car fixed on short tracks, and I think everybody all of a sudden would be happier. To me, I know everybody's talking about the playoff format and changing that and all, but Dom, I think that's the biggest issue at the moment is fixing this car on the short tracks.
Yeah, there we go. We have a lot of good victories with the next gen car. The short track one could be a potential victory down the road. Refresh my memory if I'm remembering correct, Tyler. When we had Bozy on our show a few months back, he was saying that could be a possibility of giving more horsepower on these short track vehicles.
That's what everybody's been saying. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it'll work, but I'm willing to give it a shot, see if we can potentially make it happen. Guys, before we go, what's going on with everybody this week? We'll start with you, Dom.
Yeah, this week just going to be a nice little weekend at home before we get on the road here in a couple of weeks to the next NASCAR races. And yeah, nice little family time here in New Mexico. And then, yeah, I'm going to toss this one to Matt. Matt, tell us what we're doing or what you're doing over the next few days and who our next guest is. Because next week is episode 200. We have a very special guest. We have a lot of cool things that are going to be surrounding that in the future shows. But we're kicking it off with a very special guest that somebody you know near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, for sure. A good buddy of mine. Been fortunate to know for a long time. Morgan Baird. He's made some Xfinity and truck starts over the past few years. Actually, was a big inspiration to me in being able to chase the ARCA deal. And kind of given me the idea that it was even a possibility for me. So really appreciate him and all the things that he's done to help me out, as well as all the things that he's done. It's a lot of fun to watch him do what he's been able to do, and really excited to be able to bring him on here and talk with him with you guys, and hopefully cover some interesting topics, and should be a lot of fun.
Gonna be
Very nice.
And the next week after that, Tyler, front of the show, episode 201, we're going to have none other than the keyboardist of the Steve Miller Band, Joseph Wooten, coming back to the show for episode 201. So two really good guests over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to have those guys on board, and can't wait to see them on the show and have some great conversations. So definitely stay tuned for that. And yours truly I think I'm headed back home to Tulsa this weekend, but nothing crazy. So it'll be good. Maybe I might try to watch some Friday Night Lights, try to see some Texas high school football on Friday. So everything's bigger in Texas. Want to take it in for myself. Been a while since I've seen that, but that's what's going on here. Guys, can't wait to be back again next week. Subscribe to the show. New episodes out each and every week. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Also on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. Dominic's personal favorite. Follow us on social media, X, Facebook, and all those social media platforms. And we will see you all back here next week. For Matt Kemp and Dominic Aragon, I'm Tyler Jones. Check out the Studio Soapbox Network, this show, the Jones Report, and the Coach Bo Knows podcast on all podcast platforms. So long, everybody.